All right, guys, today we're going to talk about instinctive shooting. Stay tuned. All right, guys, today I want to talk to you about shooting instinctively in traditional archery. Now, this is from my perspective. If you're somebody that shoots instinctively currently, you may have a different perspective on how you like to shoot this way. But from my perspective, this has helped me harvest many animals, shoot really good on a 3D course, and have a whole lot of fun. So I'm hoping that this is going to help you in your instinctive journey, even if you've been shooting for years. Or you might be a beginner. It doesn't matter. This is something that you can do, and I'm sure this can help you. So I took the time to put down a couple points, and I have here about I think about 10 points that I came up with. This is when I drove home from work. But first I want to tell you something. Shooting instinctively is actually shooting intuitively. Intuitive is something that is overlooked. And because this is really what instinctive archery is, in my opinion, is shooting intuitively. Intuitively, when you look it up in the dictionary, is an adverb, and it's by immediate perception without reasoning as to perceive truth intuitively. That's the definition when I looked it up in the Webster's 1828 dictionary. That's my favorite dictionary out there. It's an old school dictionary that I go to see what words meant back in the 1800s. Well, it's by immediate perception without reasoning as to perceive truth intuitively. So intuitively means that without reasoning, I'm able to get immediate perception to perceive something. That's what instinctive archery is shooting intuitively. Now, a lot of people like to come up with their own definitions, but that's my definition, because intuitively, I know where to shoot an animal. I know where to shoot a target. I know where to shoot a 3D animal. And most of the time, I can tell the yardage just intuitively, not knowing exactly the number. That's because for years, I've shot instinctively. But I'm going to give you 10 steps on how you can shoot instinctively. Now, put in the comments also if there's some things that you learned over the years to help you shoot instinctively, and also put any questions you may have in the comments. That way people in the actual comments can help you, myself and other more experienced people. But if you have experience, you may have a different perspective on this. But I'm telling you, it helps me every day. So I'm thinking they can help you as well, no matter what experience level you're at. So number one is that you must have a repeatable shot process. That is key. That is number one. You got to have something that you stick to. All right. You can shoot it intuitively. You can shoot by perception. You can have the immediate depth perception on a given target or something that you're trying to hit with an arrow. But if you don't have a repeatable shot process, and if you watch any of my videos, I shoot the same way most of the time, every single time. So same follow through, same anchor point, same way I pick my bow up, every single thing. I line up to the target, the whole deal. Usually I shoot the same way every single time, but a lot of guys don't do that, and they start to go over into shooting instinctively. And when you're off all over the place with your anchor point and your follow through, and how you sometimes focus on the target, sometimes you don't focus on the target or the spot you want to hit, you're just not going to be able to shoot instinctively. It is similar to, even though some people disagree, of shooting a basketball, throwing a football, or putting a golf ball. You know, it's very intuitive after a while when you've done it over and over and over again. I believe anybody can shoot instinctively within 20 yards of a target. It gets become more skill when you go out to 30, 40, 50, 60 yards and so on. But within 20 yards, most people that if I work with them a little bit, they can hit a pie pan group over and over again. They can group within a pie pan over and over again easily. Okay, it's not a hard, within about 2 to 3 months max for most people that really have a desire to shoot instinctively. You can do that, but you must have a repeatable shot process to do that. But you also got to have a repeatable shot process to do anything in traditional archery. You got to have that in order to be consistent, even if you're using an aiming method. Number 2 is you got to start with a low poundage bow. The bow I'm in my hand right now is probably one of my favorite bows, period. Probably my favorite recurve, and this is the 59 Kodiak by Bear Archery. This is the one with green glass. This is the one with brown glass, which is very hard to find. I was able to find this on eBay a couple years ago, and it's amazing. I got it for my birthday, and it's fantastic, right? They don't make this anymore. It's the newer model that came out in like 2018. But the point is I'm trying to make is not another bow review. It is saying this is a 55-pound bow at 28 inches. This is not the bow that I would tell somebody to go out and start shooting instinctively with. I would say whatever you go and shoot normally with, whether it's a 55-pound, 60-pound bow, whatever it is, you might want to get a lower poundage bow, even if it's a cheaper bow, to begin to shoot instinctively, because it's going to give you the ability to slow down your shot process, really focus on what you're doing and not focus so much on trying to pull the bow back, pull that string back. Sometimes the bow, we are overbowed, and if you're overbowed, it's going to be very difficult for you to shoot instinctively, because you want to make sure when you shoot instinctively that you're focusing on all the other things you have to do in order to be consistent, and not focus so much on, what the heck is that? Anyways, not to focus on, it's getting springtime out here, it's hot and bugs are flying around everywhere, and yeah, this is Texas. Anyways, so you want to start with a lower poundage bow so you can focus on all the other attributes it takes in order to become a consistent instinctive shooter. Number 3 is allow some time for your subconscious to store different sight pictures. You're going to have different sight pictures in traditional archery. What does 10 yards look like away from you? What does 20 yards look like? What does 30 yards look like? What is 5 yards? What is 2 yards? I've missed animals at 5 to 7 yards because at the time I didn't really know what the sight picture looked like from a tree stand. So from an elevated position, your sight picture from what you're looking at past your sight window on your actual riser of your bow, when you look out, that is your sight picture. Okay, you're looking at your sight picture, and that depth perception, as you're looking at and you're focusing on that spot you're trying to hit, that right there, my friends, is your subconscious taking over from your instinctive. You're thinking, hey, I need to hold right here and let the arrow go. So for me, it took me several years to get to the point where I feel comfortable shooting at different elevated position. I can shoot from the ground, I can shoot spot and stalking animals, whatever. I do still miss. However, I feel comfortable that I put the time in and the practice in to make sure I can make a good shot on an animal more than 50-60% of the time. So I'm telling you that what you really want to do is allow time for your subconscious to take over and begin to really understand what that yardage looks like. It means it's stored in your memory bank, just like throwing a football. If you throw a football over and over and over again at 10 yards, you're going to remember where to throw that football at. I'm a firm believer in that because I played sports growing up, and as I practiced different things, it became easier to know how hard to throw that ball, how hard to shoot that ball, how hard to putt that ball. Period. It does translate to some degree over to traditional archery. Then number 4 is practice no more than 10 yards from the target. I can't stress this enough. Don't go back 30 yards and try to do instinctive shooting. Even if you have a lot of experience with an aiming method, you want to make sure you go close to the target and you shoot within 10 yards, because when you do that, it's way more manageable. And you start grouping them really well, shooting instinctively, then you go back to 20, then you go back to 30, 40, whatever you want to do. But start out at that 10-yard spot. I guarantee you, you'll build the confidence up, and you really know at the end of the day that you are making the necessary progress to get to the next level, which is to move back a little farther. Which brings us to our next point. Number 5 is pay attention to your arrow at first. What you want to do in instinctive shooting is you want to pay close attention to your arrow. What I mean by that is when you knock that arrow and put it on the string, go ahead and look down that shaft for your left and your right. Your up and down, you still need to judge, but pay close attention when you first start to that shaft. When I struggle with instinctive shooting, which I do sometimes, I have shooting slumps, I pay attention to my arrow shaft a little bit, so at least my left and my right's good. Now I just got to focus on my yardage, which is subconsciously in my mind. But sometimes I really look down that arrow shaft when I'm looking at the actual spot I'm looking at. I don't use my tip to know where to hold at, not like an aiming method, but I am instinctive aiming, if you will, when I go through a shooting slump. But I realize when I go through times where I'm in a pressure situation, and I'm in a tree stand, or I'm in a blind, I get to the place where I'm like, wait a minute here, I'm not even paying attention to my arrow. So I practice a lot of the times paying attention to my left and my right. But when I'm in an actual tree stand, when I'm in a blind, when I'm spotting stalking, I'm not worried about this. Okay, I don't have time to worry about it, but I have the muscle memory and the sight picture memorized. So in my peripheral, I still know this arrow is here. I'm just not focusing on it as much in that pressure situation when it matters the most. So you want to make sure that you don't listen to people that say, hey, if you see your arrow, if you pay attention to your arrow, you're not shooting instinctively. Nah, let me tell you something. I've shot a long time, and I'm telling you right now, not everybody has a skill set, even if they do pay attention to their arrow, not to use some type of gap method or string walking and still hit a target at 30 yards away consistently. It just doesn't happen. It takes practice, even if you're instinctive aiming. Okay, and that would be an instinctive aiming when you have an arrow and you're focusing on that in your practice regimen. But I just had a situation when I went out hog hunting this time last year. I shot 2 hogs, and I don't remember looking at my arrow. I remember one jogging through the woods, and I shot him on the run, and I don't have time to look at my arrow, right? But I still practice up until that point. Most of my archery career, in traditional archery, I've always focused on my arrow a little bit, especially for long distance shots. And it helped me in a pressure situation because I probably noticed my arrow, but I didn't even think about it in the moment. So please pay attention to your arrow, especially if you hit shooting slumps in traditional archery, or if you're shooting long distance, or if you're just starting out, okay? Then you got number 6 is focus on a spot even if you keep missing. So even if you keep missing, focus on a spot. What does that mean? If I keep shooting over and over and over and over again at that 10-yard target away from me, and I keep kind of missing, I'm not grouping them, continue to focus on the spot so your body will become in alignment to the spot you're trying to hit. Meaning, don't get discouraged. Just continue to focus your eyes on that spot. Bear on that target, bear down on that target, bear down on that spot, bear down on that spot. And over time, your body will adjust. Your shot process will adjust to what you're trying to hit. Okay? So that's critical. I do that today. If I'm shooting 30 yards away or 40 yards away, and I'm still shooting instinctive, still don't use an aiming method, I do pay attention to my arrow shaft. The farther away I get, I do pay attention to it because it's hard to line up. You know, I'm not Robin Hood. I tried my best to line that arrow up, and I shoot long distances. I still pay attention to that, but at the same time, if I keep missing, I still focus on what I'm trying to hit. I don't over adjust. So continue to focus on your spot and allow your body to adjust, your mind to adjust to what you're trying to do, and it will do it naturally and very much intuitively. Number 7 is when you are consistent, then move further back. Don't move farther back too soon. I still struggle with this today. Sometimes I'm shooting lights out at 20, 30 yards, and then all of a sudden I get in my mind, I'm gonna shoot out to 50 just so I can have some fun today. Well, I'm not ready to shoot back at 50 because I struggled at 35 or whatever it was, right? So don't move back unless you are drilling it at the yardage that you are currently at. Don't go all over the board. Build that confidence up at the 20, the 25 yards, the 15 yards, the 10 yards first before you shoot an 80-yard shot and trying to hit it on camera. That is key in traditional archery. Baby steps. You got to crawl before you walk, okay? Number 7 is when you are consistent, then move further back. We just read that. Then number 8 is shoot random objects and stump shoot. Throw out tennis balls in the yard or plastic bottles, or go out and shoot stumps, because you want to judge yardage when you don't know where that target's at in your backyard. Or you might go to the same archery range and shoot the same targets. You want to shoot random things, so that way you can build up the confidence so you know how to do it when it matters the most. And you can know that, hey man, I went out stump shooting and about 50-60% of them I hit and drilled them. You didn't care what the yardage was, you just went ahead and got it done. Same thing you can do in your backyard. Throw some tennis balls out or some pop bottles or whatever you got, and just start shooting random targets so that you are always in a position to be uncomfortable, to be on the edge, and you're always judging the yardage and you're doing it instinctively. Then you got number 8 is shoot random targets, but then number 9 is don't be afraid to learn. It's so key not to be afraid to learn, because some people, they don't want to learn. They think they know everything. I do not know everything about shooting traditional archery. I have a YouTube channel. I do sound like I semi know what I'm talking about. I understand that, but I am still, in the big scheme of things, in traditional archery, in my opinion, a beginner. I have so much to learn, guys, but I like to share with you what I've learned over years, because I might be a little further along than you. I might be right where you're at, or I might be somebody that you might look at and say, hey, he has a lot to learn. That's fine, but I'm effective and I get it done. So I want to share with you to help your learning curve, but you have to be willing to learn and open up your mind to what I'm trying to tell you. I watch YouTube, I read books, I go to 3D shoots, I go hunting with people that have hunted longer than me. I'm always asking questions because I personally, Octavius, want to get better, but it's up to you to want to get better as well. So when it comes to instinctive shooting, you want to always know that you're never going to arrive, and you're always going to have to be willing to learn. And then number 10, you are not Fred Bear. Do not think that you are ever going to be Fred Bear, because Fred Bear is a legend. And what I mean by that is that don't expect to be a Howard Hill, a Fred Bear, an Art Young, or anybody that was so amazing at shooting instinctively. Because these people they put the time and dedication in to get to that level, and some of them were gifted by God. I'm not saying that you and I can't be like them, but they made a living at this. They were professionals at what they did. You looked at this not like a sport or a hobby. It was their craft and it was their livelihood. So don't be discouraged. The moral of the story is, if you go watch old film or you watch somebody that's shooting longer than you and they're just that much better than you, don't be discouraged by that, okay? Because it takes time to shoot instinctively. It takes multiple things to go right to make an instinctive shot correctly, even at 10 yards. So give it time, walk through the steps, and I'm sure that you will get better as time progresses. So guys, I appreciate you listening to this video. I'm just giving some advice. There's other things I'm sure that I left out, maybe I could have added in, but I just wanted to give you 10 steps to make you a better instinctive shooter. I know it works for me, I'm sure it'll work for you. If you have any comments, anything that you want to share that you think that will help somebody become a better instinctive shooter, share it. Also, If you have any questions on shooting instinctively, you might be frustrated and you might have some things that you're going through and you're just tired of it. You might just give it up altogether. You can share that as well. I appreciate your comments. I always appreciate what you say. Put it in there. We'll do the best we can, we being me and you, to answer these folks' questions to help them get further along in their archery journey. All right, guys, I appreciate everything you do. Thank you for your subscriptions and your likes. Turn on your post notifications, and remember this: you don't have to get ready when you stay ready. All right, guys, we'll talk to you soon.